Hello, my friend. Welcome to Dreamy Nights Classics. Tonight, we open the pages of a timeless tale, one that has drifted across the soft expanse of a century to find you here, beneath the gentle hush of the evening. It is a story of becoming, retold in whispers and lamplight, where every stitch of memory and every breath of devotion leads you closer to a deep, restorative rest. We journey tonight into the heart of the nursery, where the simplest things hold the greatest magic, and where love is the only force that makes us truly real. So settle in, let the weight of the day dissolve into the blankets, and let this old story become a new dream. Before we begin tonight's story, if these moments of stillness bring you comfort, you may wish to gently subscribe so you can return to this quiet space whenever you need to rest. Now, your presence here is a cherished part of our journey together. When you're ready, our story begins. The nursery at twilight is a sanctuary of filtered gold and long, slow shadows. The air carries the faint, comforting scent of cedar wood from the toy chest and the sweet, lingering perfume of dried lavender tucked into the linens. It is a room that breathes with the history of play, yet in this hour, it is perfectly still. The only sound is the rhythmic tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway, a steady pulse that anchors the house in a sea of quiet. Inside, a deep, velvet-lined stocking hanging by the hearth. Something small and soft waits in the darkness. It is a rabbit, fashioned from the finest dappled velveteen, stuffed with honest sawdust, and possessed of two pink thread-stitched nostrils that seem to twitch ever so slightly in the cooling air. For a toy, the first moments of existence are defined by the textures that surround them. The rabbit feels the tickle of tissue paper against his sides and the firm, supportive embrace of the wool stocking. He does not yet know the world outside, but he senses the warmth of the dying embers in the fireplace, a soft orange glow that permeates the fabric and turns his world into a dim, amber dream. There is no rush here. The chaos of Christmas morning, the bright paper being torn, the shouts of joy, the mechanical whirring of tin soldiers, is a distant, muffled memory. In the stillness of the aftermath, the rabbit remains. He is a quiet presence, a stowaway in the heart of the home, waiting for the touch that will define his purpose. On near him, the other gifts sit in the pride of their newness. There are wooden boats painted in primary colors that smell of fresh lacquer, and clockwork engines with silver keys that hum with a restless metallic energy. They are loud even in their silence, boasting of their moving parts and their modern complexity. But the Velveteen Rabbit does not mind. He is content in his softness. He feels the weight of his own head, heavy and plush, and the way his long, lined ears fall over his eyes like curtains. He is a creature of stillness, designed for holding, for leaning against. for the quiet intervals between the adventures of a young life. As the moon begins its slow ascent over the frosted window pane, a single beam of silver light carves a path across the nursery floor. It touches the edge of the stocking, illuminating the fine, a short nap of the rabbit's fur. He is a beautiful thing, though he does not yet have the words for beauty. He only knows the sensation of the light, a coolness that contrasts with the fading warmth of the hearth. In this moment, he is a vessel of potential. He is a blank page in a book of devotion, waiting for the first hand to reach in and pull him into the light of the everyday. There is a profound peace in this waiting. It is the patience of the earth before the spring, a slow gathering of spirit. The rabbit does not yearn for the mechanical precision of the tin soldiers. He simply exists in the amber light, absorbing the quiet wisdom of the room. He listens to the house settling, the soft groan of the floorboards, the sigh of the wind in the chimney, the distant, muffled footsteps of a world winding down. Each sound is a lullaby, a thread in the tapestry of his new home. He is safe. He is tucked away in a velvet pocket of the universe, prepared for the long, slow journey of becoming. As the night deepens, the shadows in the nursery turn from grey to a deep, velvety indigo. The rabbit closes his bead-black eyes, feeling the stillness settle into his sawdust heart. He is not just a toy. He is a promise. He is the warmth that will be sought in the middle of a cold night, the listener for secrets whispered under blankets, and the silent witness to the passage of time. For now, he is simply the Velveteen Rabbit, resting in the amber light, beginning his story in the most gentle way possible, with a long, quiet breath of peace. The room is steeped in the blue-silver ink of midnight, a time when the nursery transcends its daytime identity and becomes a cathedral of quiet reflection. The scent of the air has shifted. The sharp excitement of new cedar has mellowed into the soft, dusty aroma of sun-warmed rugs and the faint, sweet musk of old malt-filled toys. In this hallowed darkness, the Velveteen Rabbit sits near the fender of the fireplace, his paws tucked beneath his chest. He is surrounded by the modern inhabitants of the shelf, the mechanical toys that click and whir with an air of superior complexity. They speak of pistons and springs, of painted enamel and brass keys that turn with a sharp, definitive snap. To them, the world is a series of movements and functions, a rigid geometry of play. But tucked into the corner, where the shadows are deepest and most comforting, sits the skin horse. He is the eldest citizen of the nursery, a creature whose coat has been worn away by decades of stroking until the brown patches show the honest gray seams beneath. He smells of old hay and the gentle passage of time. His tail has been reduced to a few precious strands of horsehair, and his eyes have a cloudy, peaceful depth that sees far beyond the wooden walls of the room. The skin horse does not whir or click. He simply breathes with the room, a living testament to the endurance of love. The rabbit looks at the horse with a quiet reverence, his velveteen ears twitching as a draft from the window carries the sound of an owl's distant call. He feels his own newness, his stiff, pristine fur, and his bright, unmarred button eyes. And he feels a strange, soft longing. Oh, he leans closer to the horse, the sawdust shifting slightly within his limbs with a sound like dry autumn leaves. He asks, in a voice that is barely a whisper in the vastness of the night, what it means to be real. He wonders if it is like the clockwork train, which has a hum in its belly and a light that shines from its front. The skin horse moves his head with a slow, creaking grace, a sound like a branch swaying in a gentle wind. He explains that being real is not how you are made. It is not about the stuffing inside you or the whiskers on your face. It is something that happens to you. He speaks of the transformation as if it were a slow rising tide, a gradual soaking of the soul into the fabric of one's being. He describes it as a melting, a softening of the edges where the toy ends and the love begins. See, it is a process of being cherished until the very fibers of your velveteen heart begin to pulse with a borrowed life. As the horse speaks, the rabbit imagines the sensation of it. He thinks of the way the sunlight feels when it rests on a patch of moss, or the way a hand feels when it is laid gently upon a shoulder. The horse cautions him that it doesn't happen all at once. It takes a long, long time. Usually, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. The rabbit contemplates this shabbiness as a form of sacred ornament. He looks at the horse's bald patches and sees them not as flaws, but as maps of affection. Every worn spot a record of a night spent comforting a child. Every loose thread a memory of a journey across the nursery floor. The room feels warmer now, despite the frost creeping across the window glass in delicate fern-like patterns. There is a profound safety in the idea that perfection is not the goal, but rather the shedding of it. The rabbit feels a sense of relief wash over him, a loosening of the tension in his stitched seams. He understands that his purpose is not to stay new, but to be used until he is threadbare. They sit together in a shared silence, two creatures of soft edges in a world of hard surfaces. The horse's wisdom settles over the rabbit like a heavy, hand-knitted blanket. They watch the shadows of the nursery curtains dance on the wall, or moved by a breath of air that smells of the sleeping garden outside. The rabbit traces the texture of the rug beneath him with a paw, feeling the individual loops of wool. He begins to see the nursery not as a place of toys, but as a garden of becoming. Every object in the room, the scarred wooden blocks, the faded picture books, the chipped tea set, carries a spark of this quiet evolution. The reflection of the moon moves slowly across the floor, a pool of liquid light that eventually touches the rabbit's toes. He feels a strange internal glow, a flicker of something that isn't sawdust or thread. It is the first seed of his transformation, planted in the fertile soil of the horse's words. He realizes that the clockwork toys are trapped in their own mechanics, destined to break or run down, while he is invited into the infinite. While he is a traveler on a path that leads toward a horizon where toys and living things share the same breath. As the first hint of pre-dawn gray begins to soften the edges of the room, the skin horse closes his eyes, drifting back into his peaceful, rhythmic slumber. The rabbit remains awake for a moment longer, listening to the house sigh in its sleep. He feels a deep, quiet gratitude for the shabbiness to come. He welcomes the eventual loss of his fur and the loosening of his limbs, for he knows now that these are the prices of a love that transcends the physical. He is no longer just a toy in a stocking. He is a soul in waiting, ready for the summer, ready for the boy, and ready for the long, beautiful process of melting into the heart of another. The air in the nursery grows still. Are the dust motes suspended in the moonlight like tiny, silent stars? The rabbit rests his head against the horse's flank, feeling the steady, metaphorical heartbeat of the room. Everything is as it should be. The journey of becoming has begun, and it is a journey taken in the softest possible steps, through the tall grass of dreams and the warm hallways of a house that knows how to love. He closes his eyes, and in his mind, he is already running through fields he has never seen, his velveteen ears catching the wind of a life that is finally, slowly, starting to feel real. The world outside the nursery windows begins to deepen into the lush, heavy green of midsummer, a season where the sun seems to linger in the air long after it has dipped below the horizon. The air in the room is warm and sweet, carrying the scent of cut grass, sun-dried earth, and the heady floral perfume of honeysuckle drifting through the open casement. In this part of the journey, the Velveteen Rabbit discovers the true meaning of belonging. He is no longer a stationary inhabitant of a shelf or a fireplace fender. He has become an extension of the boy's own shadow, a constant companion in a world that is unfolding in shades of emerald and gold. The transition from the nursery to the garden is a slow, tactile awakening. The rabbit feels the change in the textures of his life. Instead of the smooth, woven loops of the nursery rug, he now knows the cool, damp embrace of the moss beneath the oak tree and the tickle of timothy grass against his velvet belly. He is carried everywhere in the crook of a warm arm, his sawdust shifting and settling with the rhythm of the boy's gait. There is a profound sense of safety in this movement, a feeling of being held so securely that the rest of the world becomes a soft, blurred background to the intimacy of their connection. They spend long, honeyed afternoons in the orchard, where the light filters through the leaves in a shimmering mosaic of lime and amber. The boy builds houses for the rabbit out of fallen branches and fern fronds, creating a sanctuary within a sanctuary. The rabbit sits perfectly still, his bead eyes reflecting the canopy above, as the boy whispers stories to him, secrets that are meant only for a friend who knows how to listen with his whole heart. In these moments, the rabbit is not just a toy being played with. He is a witness to the boy's burgeoning imagination, a silent anchor in the swirling currents of childhood wonder. As the days stretch out, the rabbit's physical form begins to tell the story of this devotion. The sun, which warms the orchard, also begins to fade the pink of his nose to a pale, pearly white. His velveteen fur, once so crisp and plush, becomes slightly matted where the boy's hand has rested day after day. There are small stains from the juice of wild blackberries and the green smudge of a clover leaf. To an observer, he might look like he is losing his luster, but to the rabbit, these marks are the highest honors. He remembers the skin horse's words. He is becoming real, and the price of that reality is the shedding of his original perfection. He feels a quiet joy in every loose thread, for it is a thread that has been loosened by the friction of love. Nightfall, during the summer of belonging, is a different kind of magic. The transition from the garden back to the nursery is a slow journey through the cooling twilight. The rabbit is tucked under the covers, his head resting on the boy's shoulder. The bed is a vast, white landscape of cotton and down, smelling of clean laundry and the faint, salty scent of the boy's skin. In the darkness, the rabbit feels the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of the boy's chest, a living metronome that lulls them both towards sleep. This is the ultimate sanctuary. Here, under the weight of the blankets, the boundaries between the toy and the human blur into a single, shared warmth. The rabbit lies awake for a time, watching the moon cast long, pale fingers across the bedspread. He contemplates the tactile history of their day, the feeling of the wind through his ears as they ran through the meadow, the gritty sensation of sand from the garden path, and the soft, repetitive stroke of the boy's thumb against his head as he drifted off to sleep. These sensations are being woven into the rabbit's very essence. He realizes that he no longer feels like a collection of fabric and sawdust. He feels like a repository of shared experiences. He is a vessel for the boy's joys, his quiet fears, and his uninhibited laughter. There is a meditative quality to this existence, a slow-motion film of companionship. The rabbit learns the beauty of the shabby, He notices that the boy's favorite books have dog-eared pages and broken spines, and that the boy's own knees are often scraped and stained with the earth. Perfection, he realizes, is a cold and lonely state. To be real is to be marked by the world, to be changed by the touch of others, and to carry the evidence of your life on your skin. He embraces the thinning of his fur as a bird might embrace the shedding of old feathers to make way for the new. He is being unmade as a toy and remade as a soul. In the deep hush of the night, when the only sound is the distant rhythmic pulse of the crickets outside, the rabbit feels a sense of profound acceptance. He is exactly where he is meant to be. He is the guardian of the boy's dreams, the silent recipient of his nighttime sighs. He is the bridge between the waking world and the realm of sleep. He reflects on the infinite patience of the garden, the way the trees grow without hurry, the way the flowers open to the sun and close to the moon. He too is growing in his own quiet way, expanding his capacity to hold the love that is being poured into him. The summer air remains still, a warm cocoon that wraps the house in peace. The rabbit leans his weight into the boy's side, feeling the literal and metaphorical heat of their bond. He thinks of the mechanical toys back in the nursery, sitting on their shelves in their pristine, unloved glory. He does not pity them, for they have their own purpose. But he knows he has chosen the better path. He has chosen the path of the heart, which is a path of wear and tear, of fading and fraying, but ultimately a path of light. As the first bird begins to chirp in the pre-dawn gray, signaling the start of another day of belonging, the rabbit feels a surge of quiet vitality. He is being cherished into existence. He is being breathed into life. The sawdust in his limbs feels heavy and settled, like the roots of an old tree. He is no longer waiting for his life to begin. He is living it, one soft moment at a time, in the amber glow of a summer that seems as though it might never end. He closes his eyes and allows the last of the starlight to wash over him, a velveteen creature who is slowly, surely, becoming a part of the eternal. The sun begins to slant at a lower angle, casting long, honey-colored fingers across the edge of the woods where the garden dissolves into the wild. The air here is different than the nursery. It is thick with the scent of damp ferns, crushed pine needles, and the cool, sharp breath of the rising evening mist. In this part of the journey, the Velveteen Rabbit encounters the mirror of what he might have been and what he is yet to become. He is placed upon the mossy ground by the boy, who wanders off to pick blackberries, leaving the rabbit to sit in the profound, humming silence of the bracken. The ground beneath him is a tapestry of ancient textures. He feels the velvet softness of the moss, which rivals his own fur, and the brittle snap of dry twigs that have fallen from the canopy above. Now the light filters through the high branches of the pines in shafts of dusty silver, creating a theater of shadow and illumination. For the first time, the rabbit is truly alone in the great outdoors, and he feels a strange, rhythmic pulse emanating from the earth. A heartbeat that is older and deeper than the ticking of the nursery clock. It is a slow, steady vibration that resonates through his sawdust limbs, connecting him to the roots and the stones. As the twilight deepens into a bruised purple, two shapes emerge from the tall grass. They move with a fluid, liquid grace that the rabbit has never seen. They are rabbits, yet they are unlike him in every way that matters to the eye. Their ears twitch with a frantic, sensitive energy, catching the slightest sigh of the wind. Their fur is a mottled mix of earth brown and winter gray, smelling of the deep forest and the wild herbs of the field. They do not sit still. They are made of movement and breath. They approach the Velveteen Rabbit with a curious, hopping dance, their noses quivering in the cooling air. The rabbit watches them with a quiet wonder, his bead eyes reflecting the first stars that pricked through the velvet sky. He notices the way they stretch their hind legs, long, powerful arcs of muscle and bone, and the way they jump without the aid of a winding key or a human hand. They ask him, in the silent language of the wild, why he does not join them. They challenge him to jump, to run, to feel the snap of the air against his whiskers. For a moment, a shadow of doubt flickers through the rabbit's mind. He looks at his own stiff, velveteen paws and his heavy, sawdust-filled body. He realizes that he is a creature of the indoors, a creature of seams and stitches. But as he watches the wild rabbits disappear into the ferns with a flash of white tails, a deep and tranquil realization settles over his heart. He is different, yes, but he is not less. The wild rabbits are made of flesh and blood, but they have never known the weight of a boy's sleeping head upon their flank. They have never been whispered to in the dark, or held through a thunderstorm, or cherished until their fur rubbed thin. They are real in the way of the forest, but he is becoming real in the way of the soul. His life is built on a foundation of devotion, a quiet architecture of love that the wind and the wild can never replicate. He sits in the gathering dark, listening to the symphony of the evening. The owls begin their soft, hollow calls, and the wind rustles the leaves with a sound like silk being pulled over stone. The scent of the earth intensifies, a rich, loamy fragrance that speaks of growth and decay, of the endless cycle of the seasons. The rabbit feels a sense of profound acceptance. He does not need to jump like the wild rabbits to be alive. His vitality comes from the warmth of the boy's hand and the steady, quiet presence he maintains in the nursery. He is a guardian of a different kind of wild, the wildness of a child's imagination. The boy returns, his fingers stained purple with berry juice, and lifts the rabbit from the moss. The touch is familiar, a homecoming in itself. As he is tucked back into the crook of the boy's arm, the rabbit feels the contrast between the cool night air and the radiant heat of the human body. It is a sensory anchor, a reminder of where he belongs. They walk back toward the house, the yellow light of the windows beckoning through the trees like stars that have fallen to earth. The rabbit looks back at the woods one last time, feeling a kinship with the shadows, but a deeper loyalty to the light. The walk home is a slow, meditative process. The rabbit feels the rhythmic swing of the boy's step, the brush of the garden gate, and the transition from the grass to the gravel path. Each step is a beat in a long, peaceful poem of companionship. He thinks of the wild rabbits again, but without longing. He realizes that there are many ways to be real. There is the reality of the pulse, and there is the reality of the heart. One is given by nature, the other is earned through the long, patient work of loving and being loved. Back in the nursery, the air is still and warm, smelling of the evening lamp and the faint trace of lavender. The rabbit is placed in his usual spot, and as the boy drifts into a deep summer sleep, the rabbit reflects on his encounter. He feels the stitches in his side, the thinning nap of his velveteen skin, and the heavy, honest weight of his sawdust. These are his marks of passage. He is no longer an imitation of a rabbit. He is a unique being, forged in the fire of affection. The nursery walls feel like a sanctuary, a sacred space where the transformation continues in the silence of the night. The moon rises higher, casting a silver net over the room. The rabbit closes his eyes, the image of the wild rabbits fading into the background of his consciousness. He is content to be still. He is content to be soft. Or he is content to be the one who stays when the world outside is in constant motion. In the hush of the midnight hour, he listens to the boy's steady breathing and feels the ancient, rhythmic pulse of the house. He is a part of something larger than himself, a tapestry of care that stretches from the beginning of time to the end of the dream. He is becoming, and that is enough. The air in the nursery has changed. The vibrant, honeyed scent of summer fields has retreated, replaced by the sharp, medicinal tang of eucalyptus and the dry, paper-like smell of winter air. The windows are no longer open to the song of crickets. Instead, they are etched with intricate, crystalline patterns of frost that catch the dim light of a single bedside lamp. This is the time of the long winter trial, a season of hushed voices, heavy blankets, and a stillness so profound it feels as though the house itself is holding its breath. The boy is ill, and the nursery has transformed from a place of play into a sanctuary of recovery. The Velveteen Rabbit sits on the edge of the pillow, his weight a small but constant presence against the boy's fevered cheek. He feels the heat radiating from the boy's skin, a dry, intense warmth that is different from the sun-drenched glow of the orchard. It is a heat that speaks of a body working hard, a quiet struggle happening within the layers of quilts. The rabbit does not move. He has become a sentinel, a soft guardian whose only purpose is to remain. He feels the texture of the flannel sheets, slightly damp from the boy's perspiration, and the rougher weave of the wool blanket that tucked them both in for the night. The room is dim, the only light coming from a small fire in the grate that crackles and sighs, casting long, wavering shadows across the ceiling. These shadows move like the branches of ghost trees, swaying in a wind that only the room can feel. The rabbit watches them with his unblinking bead eyes, reflecting the orange embers. He listens to the boy's breathing, sometimes fast and shallow, though like the fluttering of a bird's wing, and sometimes deep and heavy. Every time the boy stirs in his sleep, his hand reaches out instinctively, seeking the familiar softness of the rabbit's ears. When his fingers find the thinning velveteen, the boy's tension seems to melt away, his breath evening out as he settles back into the pillows. The rabbit feels a deep, quiet sense of duty. He is the anchor in this sea of heavy dreams. He remembers the mechanical toys on the shelf, their bright paint and sharp edges. They have been moved aside to make room for medicine bottles and cooling cloths. They are too hard for a time like this. They cannot be squeezed or leaned upon. Only the rabbit, with his sagging sawdust limbs and his worn-away fur, is fit for this task. He understands now that his shabbiness is his strength. Because he is soft, he can absorb the boy's restlessness. Because he is worn, he does not demand anything in return. He is a vessel for comfort, a silent witness to the long, slow hours of the night. There is a meditative rhythm to these days and nights. The rabbit marks time not by the clock, but by the ritual of the room, the soft clinking of a spoon against a glass, the rustle of the nurse's starched apron, the periodic cooling of the fire and its subsequent rebuilding. He feels the temperature of the room fluctuate, the chill of the winter night creeping in through the floorboards, only to be pushed back by the warmth of the hearth. Through it all, he remains a constant. He is a piece of the boy's world that hasn't changed. A familiar texture in a time where everything else feels strange and medicinal. In the deep, hollow hours of the early morning, not when the house is at its coldest, the rabbit reflects on the nature of his devotion. He feels the stitches in his side stretching as the boy holds him tight, a pleasant tension that speaks of being needed. He is no longer worried about his appearance. His pink nose is almost entirely white now, and his thread whiskers have mostly fallen away, lost somewhere in the blankets or the garden grass of months ago. But as he sits there, feeling the boy's heartbeat through the layers of fabric, he feels more alive than he ever did when he was new and shiny in his Christmas box. This is a different kind of becoming. It is a transformation through endurance. The rabbit is learning the weight of love when it is tested by worry and fatigue. He thinks of the skin horse, who surely sat through many such winters in his long life, while he realizes that being real isn't just about the joy of the summer. It's about the steadfastness of the winter. It's about being the one thing that stays when the lights are low and the world feels uncertain. He feels a profound peace in this realization. He is not just a toy, he is a companion of the soul. The scent of the room shifts as the sun begins to rise. A pale, watery light filtering through the frost on the glass. The smell of the morning is crisp and clean, a hint of wood smoke and cold stone. The boy's fever begins to break, his skin feeling cooler and more supple under the rabbit's touch. The rabbit senses the shift in the atmosphere. The heaviness of the trial is lifting, replaced by a light, airy sense of relief that seems to vibrate through the furniture. And the grandfather clock in the hall strikes the hour with a tone that sounds clearer, more musical than it has in days. The rabbit watches as the boy opens his eyes, the clarity returning to his gaze. The first thing the boy sees is the rabbit, sitting faithfully by his side. A small, weak smile touches the boy's lips, and he pulls the rabbit closer, burying his face in the worn velveteen. The rabbit feels the dampness of a stray tear, not of sadness, but of the simple, overwhelming comfort of being home. In this moment, the nursery is more than a room. It is a sanctuary of victory. The winter has been long and the trial has been heavy, but they have moved through it together, bound by a thread of affection that no fever could break. As the day begins to unfold, the rabbit remains in his place, resting against the boy's chest. He feels a deep, internal stillness, a sense of completion. He has been the anchor, the guardian, and the friend. He has given his fur, his shape, and his newness to this bed, and in return, he has received something eternal. The sawdust inside him feels like it has turned to gold, weighted with the experiences of the long winter nights. He closes his eyes, drifting into a peaceful, celebratory slumber, knowing that he has passed the greatest test of all. He is real to the boy, and in the quiet, frosted nursery, that is the only reality that matters. The air in the nursery, once thick with the heavy, medicinal veil of winter, begins to clear as the first true scents of a thawing world drift through the glass. There is the smell of wet earth, of snow melting into the roots of the garden, and the faint, metallic crispness of a March morning. The boy is better. His voice has regained its chime, and his footsteps once again tap a rhythmic dance upon the floorboards. But for the Velveteen Rabbit, the atmosphere has shifted into a strange, hollow quiet. He sits upon the unmade bed, feeling the cool draft from the hallway where suitcases are being packed, and the bustle of a seaside journey begins to stir the house from its slumber. There is a tactile transition occurring, a movement from the intimate warmth of the sick room to the stark clinical reality of a house being cleansed. The rabbit feels the brush of the doctor's hand, a touch that is efficient and cold, lacking the lingering heat of the boy's affection. He hears the rustle of the nurse's heavy skirts and the sharp, snapping sound of a matches being struck in the kitchen. The room, which had been a sanctuary of shared breaths and whispered secrets, suddenly feels vast and indifferent. The rabbit is lifted, not with the cradling squeeze he is accustomed to, but by the tips of his long, thin ears, which are now so worn they feel like fine, translucent silk. He is carried toward the garden, the movement jarring and rhythmic. He feels the transition from the soft wool of the blankets to the biting, damp chill of the outdoor air. The sun is bright, but it lacks warmth. It is a pale, silver light that illuminates every frayed seam and every bald patch upon his velveteen body. He is placed in a corner of the garden, near the raspberry thicket, atop a pile of discarded linens and old books. The ground beneath the pile is hard and unyielding, smelling of dormant roots and old wood smoke. This is the place of the great burning, a necessary clearing of the past to protect the boy's new, fragile health. The rabbit sits atop the heap, his bead eyes fixed upon the nursery window, which looks like a vacant eye reflecting the scale. He feels a profound sense of melancholy, yet it is a stillness rather than a storm. He remembers the boy's laughter, the smell of strawberry jam on his breath, and the way the boy's head felt like a heavy, warm sun against his side during the long nights of the fever. These memories are etched into his sawdust heart, more real than the cold wind that ruffles his thinning fur. He realizes that he is being set aside not because he is unloved, but because he has fulfilled his purpose. He has been the vessel for the boy's recovery, absorbing the shadows so the boy could walk back into the light. As the gardener nears with a barrow of dry leaves, the rabbit feels a single heavy sensation, a physical weight that gathers behind his glass eyes. It is a tear. It is not made of salt water or grief, but of the pure, concentrated essence of his devotion. The tear is crystal clear, shimmering with the reflected light of the garden, and as it rolls down his velvet cheek, it carries the weight of every summer afternoon and every winter vigil. It falls onto the soil beneath the raspberry bushes, a silent pearl of sacrifice hitting the earth with a sound that only the spirits of the garden can hear. The air grows still. The sound of the gardener's boots on the gravel fades into a muffled, distant thud. The scent of the earth intensifies, becoming a rich, floral perfume that seems to rise from the very spot where the tear landed. It is the scent of 1,000 roses blooming at once, mixed with the cool, sweet breath of the evening star. The rabbit feels a strange vibration in the ground, a rhythmic humming that matches the heartbeat of the woods. He is no longer just a toy waiting for the fire. He is a participant in a grand, silent alchemy. He contemplates the nature of endings, realizing that in the nursery of the soul, nothing that is truly loved is ever truly lost. While he watches as a flower begins to grow from the damp earth where his tear fell. It is a blossom of unearthly beauty, its petals a swirl of iridescent pearl and deep midnight blue. It does not grow with the frantic rush of a weed, but with a slow, cinematic unfolding, like a secret being told in a dream. The light from the flower is soft and pulsating, casting a gentle glow over the rabbit's worn face. He feels a sense of profound peace, a loosening of the fear that had momentarily gripped his stitches. He understands that this is the price of love, the beautiful, terrifying moment where the old self must be surrendered so that something eternal can take its place. The shadows of the garden lengthen, turning the raspberry canes into silhouettes of lace against the twilight sky. The rabbit rests his head back against the old books, his fur catching the silver dew. He feels the presence of the nursery magic, a force that is as old as the stars and as gentle as a mother's touch. It is a power that recognizes the value of the shabby, the beauty of the broken, and the holiness of the spent. He is ready. He has given everything he had to give. His color, his shape, his softness, and he is standing at the threshold of the infinite. The scent of the night air becomes heavy with the fragrance of the mystical flower, a scent that speaks of homecomings and the end of all wandering. The rabbit closes his eyes, listening to the distant, rhythmic shush of the sea the boy is traveling toward, and the sea of spirit he himself is about to enter. He feels the cold of the garden dissipating, replaced by a radiant or internal warmth that starts at the tips of his paws and moves upward toward his heart. The fear of the fire has vanished. In its place is a quiet curiosity about the light. He sits in the stillness, a small, velveteen figure of grace atop a mountain of the past. The world of the nursery, with its clocks and its shelves and its mechanical toys, feels 1,000 miles away. He is now a creature of the garden, a witness to the unfolding of a miracle. He waits in the velvet darkness, his heart a steady, quiet pulse in the night, as the boundaries between the physical and the magical begin to dissolve like sugar in water. He is the Velveteen Rabbit, and he has learned the final lesson of being real, that love is the only thing that survives the fire. The darkness of the garden is not a void, but a deep velvet curtain pulled tight against the world of the nursery. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and the ethereal silver fragrance of the mystical flower that has risen from the rabbit's tear. It is a scent that defies the seasons, at once the crisp bite of a winter star and the honeyed warmth of a summer afternoon. The rabbit sits atop the heap of discarded things, his body perfectly still, his bead eyes reflecting the pulsing, iridescent light of the blossom. This is the moment of the great transition, where the silence of the night becomes a symphony of quiet magic. The flower does not merely bloom, it breathes. With every slow expansion of its petals, a soft, luminous mist rolls across the raspberry thicket, coating the rabbit's worn velveteen in a layer of diamond dust dew. The rabbit feels a strange rhythmic tingling in his sawdust limbs, a sensation of lightness that starts at the tips of his paws and moves inward toward his stitched heart. He looks at his own paws, so thin and gray from years of being squeezed, and sees them shimmering in the floral glow. The textures of the world are shifting. The rough canvas of the old books beneath him feels as soft as silk, and the cold March wind has turned into a gentle, fragrant caress. From the center of the radiant bloom, a presence begins to take shape. It is not a figure of sharp edges or startling brilliance, but a soft, cinematic unfolding of light. The nursery magic fairy emerges, her movements as fluid as water and as silent as a falling leaf. She does not walk, she flows through the air, her gown a tapestry of woven moonbeams and the shadows of ancient trees. She smells of wild violets and the secret, mossy places where the first primroses grow. As she approaches the rabbit, the atmosphere of the garden becomes a sanctuary of absolute peace, a place where time has no meaning and the only reality is the depth of one's devotion. She reaches out a hand that is as pale as a lily, and her touch upon the rabbit's ears is a sensation of pure, restorative warmth. It is a touch that acknowledges every hour he spent on the nursery floor, every night he sat by the boy's fevered pillow, and every thread he lost in the service of love. She speaks, not in words that strike the ear, but in a resonance that settles directly into his soul. She tells him that because he has been loved into being real to a child, he shall now be real to everyone. The transition is not a correction of his shabbiness, but a celebration of it, a turning of his inner life into an outward form. The rabbit feels the boundaries of his velveteen skin beginning to dissolve. The sawdust inside him, once heavy and dry, starts to stir with a new, organic pulse. He feels the slow, rhythmic beating of a heart, not a clockwork hum, but a warm, thumping vibrato that matches the heartbeat of the earth itself. His limbs, once stiff and held together by cotton thread, become supple and strong. He feels the sensation of muscles uncoiling, of bones forming beneath a new, living coat of fur. It is a process of melting and remaking, a gentle alchemy that turns the toy into the creature. He is being unstitched from the past and woven into the eternal. As the fairy breathes upon him, his fur changes color. The faded, dappled velveteen is replaced by a coat of rich, nut-brown hair, as soft as the mist and as thick as the forest moss. His pink thread nostrils become a sensitive, quivering nose that catches the scent of the pine needles and the distant rain. His bead eyes, once fixed and unblinking, soften into deep, liquid pools of amber that can see the hidden paths of the woods. He feels the weight of his long, powerful hind legs. Legs that were meant for jumping, for dancing in the moonlight, for feeling the spring of the turf beneath him. The stillness of the toy is replaced by the vibrant, electric potential of the living. The fairy smiles at a slow and tender expression that reflects the infinite patience of the nursery magic. She tells him that he is no longer a prisoner of the shelf or the toy chest. He is a citizen of the wild, a brother to the wind. But he carries with him a secret that the other wild rabbits will never fully understand. He knows the warmth of a human home. He carries the memory of the boy's touch in the very marrow of his new bones. This is his unique grace, to be a creature of the forest who has known the sanctity of a child's love. It is a dual nature that makes him more real than even the rabbits born in the burrows. The rabbit takes his first tentative step upon the earth. The sensation is a revelation. He feels the individual blades of grass, the grit of the soil, and the cool moisture of the ground. It is a tactile conversation with the world that he has waited his whole life to have. He hops, and for the first time, he feels the intoxicating lift of gravity. He is no longer being carried. He is moving of his own volition. The joy of it is a quiet, bubbling spring within him. He looks back at the heap of old things, the pile of books and the discarded linens, and sees them not as a funeral pyre, but as the shell he has finally outgrown. The light from the mystical flower begins to fade, receding back into the earth as the fairy dissolves into the shadows of the raspberry canes. The garden returns to its natural state of midnight blue, but it is forever changed for the rabbit. He stands in the silence, listening to the new sounds of his body, the rustle of his fur, the twitch of his ears, the steady rhythmic thrum of his breath. The air is crisp and clear, and the moon hangs high above like a silver lantern guiding him toward the tree line. He is a masterpiece of transformation, a living testament to the power of being cherished. He turns his head toward the deep, inviting darkness of the woods. He feels a pull that is older than the nursery, a call from the ferns and the brackens and the hidden hollows under the oaks. But before he goes, he pauses. He looks up at the dark window of the nursery one last time. He feels a profound, silent gratitude for the boy who loved him until he was shabby. He realizes that the boy didn't just play with a toy. The boy was the gardener who tended to his soul until it was ready to bloom. With a final, gentle twitch of his nose, the rabbit turns away from the house and toward the infinite peace of the wild, stepping into the shadows as a creature who is finally, eternally real. The woods at the edge of the garden are a cathedral of velvet shadows and silver light, where the air tastes of ancient pine and the cool, sweet breath of the waking earth. In this final movement of our story, the Velveteen Rabbit completes his journey, stepping fully into the rhythm of the wild. He is no longer a creature of the nursery, defined by stitches and sawdust. He is a living part of the forest's great, slow pulse. The transition is a masterpiece of stillness, a final, cinematic unfolding of a soul that has found its true home among the ferns and the starlight. As he moves deeper into the trees, the rabbit feels the miraculous machinery of his new body. He experiences the tactile delight of the moss, not as a toy resting upon it, but as a living being whose paws sink slightly into the emerald dampness. He feels the snap of a twig beneath his weight and the rush of the night wind through his thick, nut-brown fur. Each movement is a revelation, a silent prayer of gratitude to the boy and the fairy who saw the reality within the velveteen. He stops by a small, crystalline stream that trickles over smooth river stones. The sound a rhythmic, liquid lullaby that mirrors the ticking of the nursery clock he left behind. He lowers his head to the water, seeing his reflection in the moonlight. For a moment, he looks for the frayed ears and the faded pink nose, but he sees only the bright, clear eyes of a wild creature and the strong, supple lines of a rabbit made for the forest. Yet, deep within those amber eyes, there is a flicker of remembrance, a soft, golden spark of the nursery lamp. He realizes that being real does not mean forgetting. It means carrying the warmth of the past into the freedom of the future. He is a bridge between two worlds, a repository of human love now walking in the silent kingdom of the trees. The other rabbits emerge from the shadows of the bracken. They approach him with a quiet, hopping grace, their long ears twitching in the silver air. They smell the scent of the wild on him, but they also sense the profound stillness he carries, a depth of spirit that comes only from having been cherished for a long, long time. They do not challenge him or question his origin. In the language of the forest, they recognize him as a brother. They move together in a slow-motion dance through the moonlit clearing, their shadows intertwining on the moss like a moving tapestry of peace. As the months pass and the seasons turn their heavy golden pages, the rabbit finds himself drawn back to the edge of the garden one evening. The air is warm and heavy with the scent of late spring roses and the hum of the first bees returning to their hives. He sits at the forest's edge, a shadow among shadows, and watches the nursery window. The glass reflects the dying embers of the sunset, turning the room into a box of amber light. He sees a small figure move across the lawn. The boy, stronger now, his hair ruffled by the same wind that moves the rabbit's whiskers. The boy pauses near the raspberry thicket, looking toward the woods with a quiet, reflective expression. He sees a rabbit sitting very still in the long grass, its ears tall and alert. For a fleeting second, a look of recognition crosses the boy's face, a feeling of something familiar in the shape of the head and the softness of the gaze. He thinks of his old Velveteen friend who was lost during the winter of the fever. He does not know that the friend is right there, watching him with eyes full of a timeless, wordless devotion. He only knows that the world feels kind and that the rabbit in the grass looks exactly like a toy he once loved into being. The rabbit feels a surge of profound contentment. This is the ultimate fulfillment of the skin horse's wisdom. To be real is to be a part of the eternal continuity of love. He does not need to be held to be cherished. He does not need to be seen to be remembered. The love they shared has become a permanent part of the landscape, a soft energy that lingers in the garden and the nursery alike. Now he watches as the boy turns back toward the house, the yellow light of the doorway welcoming him home. The rabbit is at home too, among the roots, the stars, and the infinite hush of the night. The moon rises higher, casting a silver net over the entire valley. The rabbit turns back toward the deep woods, hopping with a grace that is both powerful and light. He feels the earth pushing back against his paws, a steady, supportive presence that will never fail him. The scent of the night intensifies, a mixture of wood smoke from the house and the clean, cold fragrance of the high peaks. Everything is in its right place. The journey of becoming is not an end, but a beautiful, ongoing state of grace. He finds a hollow beneath the roots of a great, ancient oak, where the earth is warm and the air is still. He settles down, all his limbs heavy and relaxed, his breath a slow, rhythmic sigh that matches the swaying of the branches above. He thinks of the nursery one last time, the smell of cedar, the tick of the clock, and the soft weight of the blankets. He carries those sensations within him like a treasure, a secret warmth that will keep him company through all the winters to come. He is the Velveteen Rabbit, and he has found the ultimate sanctuary, the peace of being exactly who he was always meant to be. The story fades into the deep, indigo silence of the forest. The trees whisper their old secrets to the wind, and the stars watch over the sleeping world with a steady, unwavering light. In the garden, in the nursery, and in the heart of the woods, the magic of becoming continues, soft and certain as the dawn. The world is safe. The night is kind. And somewhere, in the tall grass where the moonlight falls, a small brown rabbit sleeps in perfect, eternal peace. Sleep well, dream softly, and may the night hold you kindly.